long have you actually been Muslim?
So I actually took Shahada when I was in Philippines because I got sick of waiting. I was just, I was in a bathroom in the Philippines. But officially, in this masjid behind us, about I'd say 10 days ago.
And when was Philippines, if you don't mind me asking?
Philippines was a couple of weeks back, three weeks ago.
Okay.
A friend of mine who I was chatting with, he said, you can do it now. You don't have to wait to be in a masjid.
Correct.
So I was just like, all right, let's go.
I want to know your life before Islam spiritually.
Okay, cool. So 13 years of Catholic schooling. I'll be honest, church was always a chore. I remember we used to hide so we didn't have to go to church in school. But it was presented as a chore, and it was always a very boring, very dull thing. Having moved to the Middle East, I've been here for 15 years. I've lived in Iran, Syria, a lot of time in Saudi, Iraq, and so on. I always felt that, especially when I'd see people rushing to the masjid for Joma prayer, I'd felt, they've got something I don't. Not an envious thing, but just seeing, I see that they have a devotion and a brotherhood and a faith, a connection with God, which I don't. I always felt something was missing in that sense. But ultimately, my decision to revert, it was a long time coming. I'd say pretty serious about my reading for the last 5 years, because it's not a small decision, right? And there's no going back. Once it's done, it's done.
Definitely.
It was not an emotional thing. It was purely logical. And my reasoning being that, first of all, if you want to get the most out of the human experience, why would you live without a connection to God? If you want to perceive humanity with a certain system that made you the most worthwhile human you could be, to live out your human experience in the best way possible, to therefore contribute the most to humanity, to your family, to society, and so on, why not Islam? Because for me, it's a lot more than just a religion in the sense that, to answer your question, pre-Islam, I thought religion was go to church once a week, say a few things. Understanding Islam, to me, it's so much more than what I perceived a religion to be before. It's a system for perceiving the world. It's a system for self-programming yourself effectively. What are you doing when you pray? You're giving gratitude. You're acknowledging that you are not, the center of the universe. You're conceptualizing things like shaitan, temptation. You're conceptualizing the fact that you are accountable to a higher force. How does that not make you a better human, and therefore better positioned to give value to your family, to stay disciplined, to work hard for society? To me, it's just in a purely logical sense. Islam is a system that makes you the best version you can be when practiced earnestly, and therefore makes you the most positive contributor to your family unit, to your brothers, to society. How can you argue against that? To me, it's overwhelmingly positive. So that was the turning point. For me personally, my main goal in life at the moment is to be the best version of the man I can be. Islam is a real accelerator of that. It really is. It's a system for life to make you the best version of man that you can be. And I think it's quite powerful.
So speaking about connection to God, have you ever dealt with atheism? Because a lot of people, I hear this a lot, I'm too logical for God. I'm too rational to believe in a God.
To that, I'd say atheists to me, first of all, don't seem like very happy people. So that's the first one. But secondly, the argument for or against God, again, what's your primary purpose for being on this planet? If it's to be the best version of a man that you can be and give the most positive impact to your family, your brothers, the causes you believe in society, then trying to do that without religion, without Islam, you're missing a weapon in your arsenal. So atheists, to me, they're shooting themselves in the foot. Let's say, somehow they are right, which obviously we know they're not. If their belief systems don't make them fulfilled and make them the best versions of themselves that they can be, then what's the point of their belief system? I would argue that logic. If you can go to a mosque and feel an intense emotional connection with a higher power, feel the brotherhood of the men you're standing next to, why would you choose atheism where you miss out on all these things? To me, that's illogical. So that would be my argument there.
So, how would you say that Islam has changed your life or benefited your life?
Yeah, interesting one, brother. It hasn't been that long. I feel a lot of energy about my desire to learn more, which I quite like. Typically, learning new things can be a bit of a chore. Whereas the more I read about Islam, the more conversations I have, the more hunger I have to learn. So I feel even more motivated. I'm a pretty motivated guy already. Like, I work pretty hard. I feel more motivated to carve out more time to increase my learning. Definitely going to the masjid is, I try and go every day. I've been successful bar one day in the last couple of weeks. There's a power there which I haven't really comprehended yet. And I think it's simply by, I mean, the phrase Allahu Akbar, God is the biggest, the greatest. Just by acknowledging that and giving thanks, to me, it gets your ego out of the way. It gets your problems out of the way. And yes, you could say, you know, I'm grateful to God for everything I've been given. You go to a masjid and you pray, that's an action. And we all know actions have more power than words. So for me, I mean, one example, ever since my kids were really little, before we go to bed, we always take turns saying 3 things we're grateful for throughout the day. Because I wanted to build that mindset in my kids to be grateful. Especially because growing up in Dubai, alhamdulillah, they have everything they could ever want. I wanted them to stay grounded and stay grateful. Tell me that going and praying isn't the adult version of that. You are self-programming yourself to be grateful. You are reminding yourself that there is a higher power, that you are accountable to that higher power. So through that practice, I've become even more grateful and even more focused on getting the most out of each day. I find that the ritual of prayer definitely adds discipline. You need to get up, but by certain times, you know. I need to learn Arabic to understand what I'm saying better. It's as a whole, it's very motivating. It's given me a lot more energy to approach every day.
There's this innate belief that I have that we become Muslim before we become Muslim. Like, you know you're a Muslim and you take the Shahada subconsciously before you logically come to terms with verbalizing the Shahada. Because I think that's your ego catching up with what you innately believe when you already submit.
That
so
definitely
you found
correlates.
that to be true.
Yeah, that correlates with my experience, 100%. 100%.
So we got a very special announcement. As you can see, we are here in Masjid Al-Nabawi. For all the Muslim brothers out there that are trying to level up that drip game, we have our first drop coming out soon. We have 200 pieces that are going to be released within this drop. So if that's something you're trying to do, then click the link on the screen in the description box down below to get 10% off on the drop day, which is March 31st. And make sure to check your email box so you can see if you got the message. Check your spam folder as well to see if you got the message, so that way you can be on point and be notified as soon as we release this clothing on March 31st. 5% of all proceeds are going to building a masjid in Norway, so make sure that you are checking your email so that you can confirm and be notified when we drop on March 31st. The collection is going to be called Victory in Patience in honor of Andrew and Tristan Tate for what they're going through right now. So let's make dua so that Allah releases them as soon as possible and brings them out in the best state that He can possibly bring them out in.